Welcome back to the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast, where we got our closer for the week, Andrew McInnis, in to finish off the NFL card here, starting 4-6-3 down to the end of the card, the Monday night game. But Andrew, welcome to the podcast. How are you, bud?
Good, great, Drew. Feels like it was just yesterday we were doing this podcast last week. So, time flies, and it's a great day to be a sports handicapper, great day to break down some games, and I'm really excited about it. So let's get into it. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. And you bring up last week, you're off of a 5-0 NFL Sunday. Congrats to you on that. So red hot handicapper here. And also on the NHL, at the end of the podcast, guys, we'll give out McGinnis's NHL top play for the weekend. And he won last week with Edmonton minus 115. That was the first time we did it. So hopefully get another winner here, McInnis, and go 2-0 with that. But, more importantly, 5-0 on Sunday in the NFL. And, guys, use coupon code McGinnis7 for half off of McGinnis's 7-day all-access at sportsmemo.com. That will give you his NFL and NHL plus CFL, which has got a big play going this weekend as well. So check that out at sportsmemo.com. But McGinnis, let's get right into the games. We got 4-6-3, 4-6-4. This is actually the Sunday night game. We were talking off air. Why is it in the middle of the rotation on the odds screen? But not sure exactly how they came up with this. But either way, it's the Sunday night game. Cincinnati at Kansas City. 58.5 I'm seeing as the total at Chris. They're high right now. Also seeing 57.5s out there as well. 5.5 as far as the line. Pretty much seems to be consensus with the Chiefs laying 5.5 at home. McGinnis, how would you look to bet this one?
Drew, to be quite honest with you, I'm going to stay off the side in this one. I think both of these two teams are coming off really, really big, important games. Unfortunately for Kansas City, they couldn't get things done, but they were able to cover the point spread. They just fell short to the Patriots. They had a kind of a rough first half to start things out. And, when you're playing a team like the Patriots and, going up against a quarterback like Tom Brady, you just can't, you can't have a bad quarter, can't have a bad half. You have to be consistent throughout the entire game. As far as this Bengals team go, they just really, Drew, flat out couldn't get the job done against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think a lot of people were upset with their performance. They thought they could put up a lot better defense. And, I don't think that it's going to be any better this week whatsoever. I think that Kansas City, no matter what we saw in that first half, they came out in the second half and performed. Tyreek Hill was the man. We saw Mahomes come back, settle into his game, and really look confident out there like the guy we saw the past couple of weeks. So for me, I don't care if you're giving me a 60 as a total in this one, Drew. I'm going to go up and over the total.
All right, good stuff. We got 4-6-5, 4-6-6, Minnesota at the New York Jets. Looks like the Vikings road favorites here. 3.5 on the highway, 46 the total.
You know what, Drew? The Jets came off a win over the Colts, and they put up 42 points. They also allowed 34, and I know it was against the Colts. And the Colts are not a team I'm high on whatsoever. They're a terrible team, but I'm pretty impressed with them. No matter who you're playing, the ability to put 42 points up on the board is impressive, and the fact that they're able to spread their offense out a lot more, it's really shocking to me. Honestly, I did not see that coming over the past couple of weeks. It wasn't a client play for me, but it was a small lean coming into last week. And now looking at this one against the Vikings, I just think it's a great spot for them. They're getting a field goal and the hook a little more, plus 3.5. I just think that their offense is looking too good right now. If they can play even just a little bit more defense, step things up, and that's probably what they're working on all week. When you play a game like that against the Colts, Drew, you realize how powerful your offense can be. You just have to, take a whole week in practice, step up your defense, just kind of go through your plays on offense. And I think this game will also go over the total, but I'm definitely backing the New York Jets.
So liking points so far during the first two games, but going on to 4-6-7, 4-6-8 here. We got Houston at Jacksonville. I'll tell you, McGinnis, Jacksonville last 2 weeks hasn't looked too good. I know from personal experiences have kind of lost with the Jags here, but you think they can turn it around? It seems like the market does. They opened 3.5. Now I'm seeing 4.5s out there. A lot of 4s as well. 41 the total. How you looking to bet Houston, Jacksonville?
Yeah, Drew, that was just an awful performance. That was tough to watch, honestly, in that Dallas game. For some reason, Dallas seemed to control the pace. Jacksonville's usually a team that can control the play style of a game and really control the clock, and that did not happen whatsoever last week. I found this Jacksonville defense to be embarrassing. And, not only a bounce back spot for this Jacksonville team, but just a good scheduling and positional spot for them in my eyes. This isn't really, honestly, Drew, more of a spot for me to kind of ride Jacksonville. It's more of just a fade Houston, to be honest with you. I really, really don't like Houston right now. I feel like over the past couple of weeks, they've still gotten far, far too much respect. And I don't know if it's their defense or if they think they can consistently put up points. But, I don't think they have too many weapons. I don't think their defense is too strong. And I think Jacksonville, if anybody can, against this Houston team especially, can come back and cover a 4.5 spread. It's definitely going to be this Jacksonville team. So I think this is the week that Jacksonville comes out and says, hey, we're still a good team. We're still a team that's competitive in this NFL and going to go far, going to make a run at it. And this will be the week that it happens. So I think Blake Bortles will have a great week this week. He's a man that can throw the ball. He's a guy that didn't prove that last week, obviously, but we'll see a great performance out of him this week. And I think Jacksonville covers this one pretty easily, honestly, Drew.
Yeah, and watching the Jags, do you think that it is just Blake Bortles, or what else do you think's going on with this offense? Just kind of a funk that you think they'll be able to break out, or can you kind of pinpoint something else that they're having an issue with?
To be honest with you, Drew, I think they're almost kind of just they're getting away from their basics. They're trying to do too much, and I think that's the problem. I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but I feel like they're going for these too deep of plays. They're going too far. They're trying to make the extra play. They don't need to go away from their identity. Jacksonville Jaguars, to me, are a team that can just throw a screen pass and run with it, or run the ball, keep teams guessing. Like I said, Jacksonville, in my eyes, is a team that controls the game, controls the ball game, controls the pace. They don't need to go for these 70-yard touchdowns. They don't need to do that kind of stuff. Their defense should step up this week. So I think they should just go for those, 5, 10, 15-yard tosses, control the run game, and that's how they should win games. I feel like Jacksonville over the past couple of weeks has just tried to do a little bit too much, and it's almost coming back to hurt them.
Yeah, I can see that, just trying to do too much, and really just realize, rely on your defense. It's not the end of the world to punt, and you got one of the better defenses in the NFL, and just kind of rely on them, get some turnovers, and win that game. Don't rely on Blake Bortles to win the game for you. Just let him kind of be more of a game manager. I could see that. Moving down the card here, on to the 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific kicks now. New Orleans at Baltimore, 49.5 the total. Looks like 3 or 2.5s out there, so want to shop around on this one. McInnis, what are you seeing on New Orleans, Baltimore? You think that Saints offense can play well outside of the Dome?
Yeah, I certainly don't think so, Drew. I think that this Baltimore Ravens team is honestly not getting as much respect as they should be in this game. This is a small spread that we're getting, less than a field goal. And this Ravens team right now, 4-2 against the spread, they'll continue to have some success. The thing about the Saints that always bothers me, Drew, is that on a game-to-game basis, whether or not it shows or not, there's so many slip-ups in their defense that it literally bothers me. They're a tough team in my eyes to back because – especially against the spread, no matter what it is, if they're favorites or not, you just never know what you're going to get for a full 4 quarters. This is a team where they could come out so flat-footed and play a terrible first half and then come out in the second half and put up, 30 points. This is a team that I cannot trust on a week-to-week basis, where this Baltimore Ravens team is one of those teams. Even they've had 1 or 2 bad weeks that they've slipped up, but this is a defense that I think is very, very underrated. I think they will shut down this New Orleans Saints offense, and they'll really prove that they mean business in the NFL this year. So I think Ravens, they see this Saints team and they're like, hey, this team thinks they can put up a bunch of points on us. They have a powerful offense. They've got guys that are flashy. Not so fast. I think this Ravens team is getting 2.5 points. To my eyes, that's one of my favorite bets on the week. The Ravens minus 2.5.
We got 471, 472 Dallas at Washington. The Cowboys off that aforementioned win over the Jacksonville Jaguars looking good. But this week, seeing 41.5 the total. They're catching 1 on the highways. Do see a pick out there as well. 1.5 at South Point if you're in Vegas. But would you look to lay it here with Washington? Take it with Dallas, or interested in the total, McInnis?
Drew, I don't know if you remember the past, couple of weeks what I said about Dallas, but it's almost coming a running joke with myself, just looking back at when I prepare for these cards and to talk with you, because I've been kind of crapping on Dallas a little bit, man, and they came out last week and really shut me up and really proved me wrong. And I think this week for me, I'm going to stay off the side in this one and see if they actually mean business. If I was to have a lean, to be honest with you, it would be Washington. Just simply the spot that they're in. Dallas probably going to be overhyped after that win. I think everything that could have gone right for Dallas went right last week. And I think Washington will come into this one a little more poised, a little more relaxed. And one thing about Washington is that if they take care of the ball and just keep it basic, like you mentioned about Jacksonville, let their defense do the talking, but just take care of the ball. Don't try and do too much and run the ball, control the game, and they'll be successful. But I'm going to look to the over in this one, Drew. This total is far, far, far too low in my eyes. Dallas just proved to us they can put up some points. Over the past couple of weeks, they proved to us their offense is progressing each and every week. And with Washington, the same thing. They've got weapons. They've got guys that can score. They've got very, very fast guys on the outside. And I think this total could hit in the third quarter, Drew.
Nice. Well, always nice when the totals hit in the third quarter right after halftime. Makes you feel good. We got 473, 474 finishing it off the Sunday card. Then we got the Monday night game. We got the LA Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. Don't see this spread too much as far as an NFL team laying 9.5, even 10. So laying doubles on the road. Don't see that too often, McInnis. We got 52 the total. How are you handling this one?
Well, like you mentioned, we don't see a lot of these big spreads, and we don't see a lot of them even with a team like the Rams. And this is kind of funny when you look at this game, Drew, because the San Francisco 49ers were actually a team that were underdogs 9.5 last week and covered that against the Green Bay Packers quite easily. They had a great game, and they kind of controlled the game in my eyes. But now they head into this spot where I think it's just a very, very, very big letdown spot for them. In my eyes, realistically, the Rams didn't play their best game. The Rams last week didn't really look to be their best against the Denver Broncos, and they'll come into this one and take care of business. I think that if you look at last game, everyone was talking about the matchups and how good Denver's defense will be able to handle the powerful offense in the Rams. I think that the Rams will come into this one and absolutely blow San Fran out. The thing about San Francisco, the reason why they were able to look decent against the Green Bay Packers is, one, the Green Bay Packers defense is awful, but two, they actually had a decent run game, and Green Bay had a terrible run defense. But not only that, is that I felt like they were able to just take shots. They were able to take risks. Like I said, my main kind of thing I'm talking about today is controlling the pace of the game. That's what I saw a lot last week out of San Fran. But look, LA has far, far, far too many weapons. They can run the ball, out the entire game. And, of course, Goff is on a mission right now. He's going to lead this team throughout the entire season. I think that San Fran won't really know what hit them because, this is coming from a Green Bay Packers fan. Going from playing the Packers to the Rams is an absolute step up. And, we're getting 9.5, 10, 10.5. I would stop at around 10, Drew, but go ahead and take the Rams.
All right, laying it with the Rams, the big number, not scaring McInnis. I like it, man. Go out on a limb there. And guys, remember the coupon code McInnis, his last name, McInnis7, that's the number 7, half off his 7-day all access at sportsmemo.com. That includes NHL, NFL, CFL. How much time do we got left in the CFL, McInnis?
So we're going into week 18 now. So this is a do-or-die week for most teams, and then the playoffs will be ready to go.
All right, nice. Yeah, and I know we got the Monday night game up here, but just off the top of your head, who do you think is going to win the Grey Cup?
You know what? I really do think it could be Calgary's year this year. They've been favorites, Drew, for the past several years, and they haven't really been able to get the job done. I think Calgary could really kind of come into this one as a sleeper because sometimes you really feel like it's when the team isn't talked about as highly. That's when they can kind of slide in. The past couple of years, Calgary's been so talked about, and the favorites, just heavy favorites, and they weren't able to get the job done. But it's talking from a value perspective. I mean, there's not that many teams. There's only 9 teams in the entire league, Drew. That's why it's tough to get respect from a lot of people, a lot of American viewers. Only 9 teams in this league. But from a value perspective, You can get the Hamilton Tiger Cats at plus 400 to win the Grey Cup. I would take a look at that one.
Nice. All right. Plus 400 on the Ticats might be worth a shot. We got the Monday night game, and then the podcast play of the weekend in the NHL. We'll throw it after that. But Monday night game, 475, 476, New York Giants at the Atlanta Falcons in Mercedes-Benz Stadium there. We got 54, the total. Looks like the Falcons laying 3.5 or 4, seeing a disparity in the market as far as in Vegas it's 4s, offshore mostly 3.5s. Something to be aware of there. But McInnis, how would you look to bet New York Giants at the Atlanta Falcons Monday night?
I think you really have no choice but to take the Atlanta Falcons in this one. To be honest, Drew, when I first saw this line, it made me kind of question my entire NFL handicapping. It made me wonder why Atlanta is such small favorites. But then I think to myself, well, look, Atlanta's a team that can put up points on a weekly basis. They can be strong. They've got weapons. They've got guys like Julio Jones that you can consistently rely on to catch those deep balls. And, when Matt Ryan's on his game, he does look strong. But their run game, they've been a little banged up, but they're still a team. They're still an elite team. They're still a very, very strong team that's getting 3.5 to 4 points against the New York Giants at home. That's an absolute joke in my eyes. This is a disgrace. I mean, Eli Manning, as a quarterback, the performances we've seen from him in the past couple of weeks, the way this whole team has looked, it's absolutely despicable. It's a team. I feel so bad for Odell Beckham Jr., despite, the politics for all of his antics, all of this and that, throw all that out the window. I'm talking from a football perspective. I feel bad for a guy who's one of the best wideouts in the league, Drew, and he has to settle for 3, 4, 5, 6-yard passes at a time. He can't actually use his explosiveness, use his skills that he has, and actually use them to help his team win. It's really sad to watch. So coming into this one, I'm comfortably laying the points with the Atlanta Falcons. We saw last week, I talked about it. I thought it was going to be a very high-scoring game between the Falcons and the Bucs. We came into that game thinking, look, both these two teams came off huge losses. Both teams have really depleted defenses. Atlanta's defense still looks awful, but I don't think the Giants can do enough to cover that 4 points in my eyes. So as bad as the Atlanta defense is, their offense is far more superior than the Giants.
Well, in your estimation then, because this number kind of stands out to me as well, why is it only 3.5? I mean, why aren't we seeing 6.5s out there? Because I pretty much agree with your analysis, but what would you say is the other side of the argument?
I honestly, Drew, I think it's more so just a spot because the odds makers don't trust Atlanta to win a marginal victory. That's just personally the way I see it. The Giants have to turn things around eventually. Their defense is going to have to be their standalone, kind of their main skill at coming into this game. And honestly, Matt Ryan is still struggling in the red zone. He's still a guy that, as much as they put up 34 points, Drew, he's still a guy that I don't trust in the 10-yard line. I'm still crossing my fingers, looking at that scoreboard, looking at the game, hoping he converts. So I guess the odds makers think this game could be a lot closer than you and I think, but to my eyes, this Giants team is absolutely awful. And whether or not it's low scoring or high scoring, I'm not touching the total whatsoever in this one, but I'm just going to go with Atlanta.
Makes a lot of sense. If you're going to be covering points, you got to be if you're going to be laying more than a field goal, putting the ball in the end zone, not necessarily just kicking field goals. So, red zone struggles on offense for the Falcons makes a lot of sense. Good stuff on the NFL, guys. Remember his coupon code McInnis7, half off his 7-day all access. Let's touch the ice here real quick, McInnis. 1-0 last week. We started this best NHL play for the weekend, kind of talking, a lot of American bettors out there that like football, but, want to throw them a little bone, something to kind of touch on the NHL ice. What are you liking kind of over the whole board for the NHL, throwing out a free play, your, best free play for the weekend in the NHL, McInnis?
Yeah, I've got one picked out for us for the Saturday card, Drew, on the weekend. And, you've asked me numerous times, and we've talked about this for the difference between, NFL, different NCAA, different traveling spots, comparison to NHL and how it works exactly in the NHL. And this game that I'm picked out here is a perfect example. We've got the Boston Bruins taking on the Vancouver Canucks. And it's a perfect spot because the Boston Bruins are coming off. They're now in their third game of their West Coast road trip. For everyone that doesn't know their Canadian geography, Vancouver in the West Coast, Boston in the East Coast. So Vancouver is a team right now that's relatively banged up. They're injured, and they're a young team. And a lot of times, Drew, when I see a young team, you still want to have those vets that are there. But not only that, you want to, if you're a young team, you got to have your two youngest, most skilled guys in the lineup. And unfortunately, those guys are currently injured right now in Elias Pettersson for the Vancouver Canucks. He is out. He won't be back to my knowledge so far. But despite, even if he is in the lineup, this team is not powerful enough to hold on to the Boston Bruins. And to be quite honest with you, this Bruins team had a terrible performance to start their road trip off, which is a spot that you usually don't want to look at, Drew, in my eyes. You don't want to start a road trip off, especially a team heading from the east to the west. They're playing that late game. They're just settling in. They didn't fare well against Calgary. They came in, they played Edmonton, and they blew that lead. They lost to Edmonton in overtime last night. Now they're going to come in against Vancouver. I say they get the job done on the puck line. They'll win by at least 2 goals in my eye. So we're going to give out a puck line wager on this podcast here. And a lot of people talk about who's the best player in the league right now. Is it McDavid? Is it Matthews? Is it Crosby? Who is it? Well, let's talk about the best line in the entire league, because that's what really matters, the line chemistry and the line combos. Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, and David Pastrnak are by far the 3 best line mates. Despite being the best players, they're the best line mates, and they have the best chemistry, Drew, in my eyes, in the entire NHL. They're so good together, and that will really, really come to play in this game versus Vancouver, a very young team, like I mentioned. So we're going to go with the puck line here. I'm just checking right now to see if the line is out for the puck line. I saw it was out for the money line, but for right now in this one, again, I mentioned this. When you're talking about a puck line, I don't often like to take these too much, Drew, because as much as you're getting value, you're still not just cheering for them to win. You're cheering for them to cover that 2-goal margin. And as much as a team can be dominating, it's not always going to be that great of value. But we look at this spot here: Boston -1.5 plus 190. That's what I'm giving out here on this podcast to cover the 2-goal margin. So Boston Bruins. It's a late game, Saturday night, West Coast. Boston visiting Vancouver to win by at least 2 goals, plus 190.
All right, so on the road, Boston Bruins -1.5 plus 190 right now at the Chris Sportsbooks. That's bookmaker. I see they're out, and other than that, there's no sportsbooks out with that right now, right, McInnis? They'll come out later tonight.
It'll probably be out later this afternoon, yes.
Okay, so by the time this podcast is posted, check that out. Boston -1.5 plus 190 on the puck line for McGinnis's NHL best free play of the weekend. He's already 1-0, won on Edmonton -115 last week. So, McGinnis, thanks. Great breakdown of the NFL and NHL. Guys, remember his coupon code McGinnis7. That's MCINNIS 7 for half off his 7-day all access at sportsmemo.com. Also, give him a follow on Twitter at McGinnis Picks, NHL, CFL, and NFL information up there. So thank you, McGinnis. Best of luck with your bets, everyone, and we'll see you next week for NFL opening line segment with Teddy and Kelly in Vegas at sportsmemo.com. Best of luck with your bets.